Good morning. Today I'm going to talk about when I was in past life regression training to do past life regression work. I received my own regression during the training and had a very profound memory of my home planet, what I call my home planet, because it just has such a deep resonance in my soul. And I know, in essence, we are all from source, but to me, this is what I refer to as my home planet. Just of a more physical realm versus source, which is just energy. So the memory began to awaken before the regression itself. I had had other bits of the memory come in, but I didn't really see it, feel it, hear it in the same way until that regression. And the night before the regression, I had a nightmare that was so horrific, and it was incredibly detailed. It was a past life memory, and I'm going to share some of that because it really connects to when I was in the regress state and what came up of my home planet. In the dream, I was being chased by a man, and I was in like a hospital setting, or what are, it was on another planet, but it was a hospital, but a higher tech one because it was a higher dimensional reality. I believe it was about fourth dimension. Yeah, I would say it was fourth dimension. I honestly didn't think of what dimension specifically, but I'm really feeling into that in this moment, and that's definitely what I'm getting. So in this fourth dimensional reality, everyone there was strikingly beautiful. Even people who were much older, they were so beautiful. And it was actually hard to tell age because of, everyone was so attractive. And so I'm being chased, and I realized who this person was, that he was someone who had tracked me lifetime through lifetime in many different places. And he had a really strange tool, and it looked like what we would, describe as a handsaw, but it was a technological device that when you saw someone, like you hit someone with it, they evaporate, essentially. It was a very terrible way to die from what I could sense of it. And he was killing people and showing me that this was going to be me, and he was really trying to instill a lot of fear in me. So he chases me, kills my coworker, we wouldn't call them coworkers. It felt much more of like a friend than just a coworker. And he was much older than I was. And then he chases me, and I go into a really unusual space. This was like, hanging curtains, and you go inside of it, and there were floating oval-shaped baby changing tables. They were floating, and these rooms were called Eloixes, and I actually can't say it because I don't think we have all the right vocal cords or letters or something, but I could hear it in my dream space. And I actually, when I woke up and I said this word, and I could even spell it as best as I could. Very strange spelling, that was the name of these special areas, which didn't seem all that special, but they were. I went into them for a particular reason, and I got up on the changing table that was floating, and I couldn't be detected in there. And a friend helped me realize that the significance of the space I was in is that they were protected, and beings who could remote view, because there was that ability to remote view, they were not able to remote view into that space. So I was protected and hidden. But he was searching around for me, and he could not detect me. So this person would use the ability to remote view to see where I was, and I was remote viewing him. And because I was in this space, I could remote view him and know exactly where he was. Well, he could sense me remote viewing him, and he said, "I will find you." And there's a little more detail that I'm just gonna skip over for now, because there's a lot of detail in this experience. And he said, "I will find you. I will find you on a Monday." And the significance of that, maybe there wasn't the actual days of the week on this planet in this way, but the significance of that is he was saying, "I know what day you will be leaving that space that you're hiding in, and I will find you on that day." And again, there's some more detail. I'm going to skip over some of that. And I woke up. Now, before I woke up, this part is significant. I did leave and got away. My family had picked me up. We had obviously communicated with each other somehow, and they picked me up and we got away. And then we were in another area, and I was trying to leave with my mother and telling her, "We have to go. He's coming. We have to go." And I was panicked, but she was not moving fast enough. And sure enough, he caught up with us, and he used that saw device and slit her throat in front of me. And I woke up at that point, and I was very, very sick from the memory surfacing. It was not just a nightmare to me, it was the experience coming up once again, and being awakened, and it was very, very traumatizing. So I was sick to my stomach that day, and I believe I fell back asleep, and it picked right back up to another part of the memory. But when I went to the regression training that day, I was very ill from what had surfaced earlier that morning and in my dream state. So I talked to the teacher of the training, and she decided she would be the one to do the regression on me so that she could help heal and clear what had come up, rather than having another student working with me as my partner. And I went into the regress state immediately. And that's not to say that would happen for me all the time. It happened that way because of what had happened in the dream state and what memory had just surfaced. I was already so ready to drop in. So I dropped in right away, and I went to my home planet, which was not expected. I didn't know how these things really connected. I did discover that this being who was tracking me and chasing me, he was using the ability of remote viewing. And the remote viewing is like, it's on a whole different level. It's like you can actually see, hear, you know exactly where they are, what they're doing. I mean, you're like literally seeing it. Even though you're in a different space and they're in a different space, you can see everything that's going on in perfect clarity. It's not, like the remote viewing that we have here. Like I said, it's just such a different dimensional space. So he was able to use that as like it's like a marker essentially, or a tag, like, oh, when you use that ability, that's how they can find you. So when I went to my home planet, I saw that, first of all, everything was singing. We could hear it, we could feel it, the vibration of everything. The trees were singing. It's so hard to describe, honestly. All of those sounds were keeping everything in balance. It was not just that they were singing, it's that we were so tapped in and in tune with the vibrational energy of everything, and recognize that sound is vibration, vibration is sound, and we can hear that. And to us, it sounds extremely melodic and beautiful. It's similar to chimes. And after I heard chimes, after this memory came up, I realized that chimes are working sort of in this way where they're doing, if they are chimes that have been made in such a way, they're actually doing a sort of vibrational tuning themselves when they're playing in the wind. So as I was walking along on my home planet and just feeling the vibration of everything and hearing the melodic tones of every single thing around that you can imagine, then we had kind of skipped into the space where we were doing healing work. And what was happening was that someone needed healing, and so we had gathered in a circle. And the person who needed healing did not go in the center of the circle, because we understood that if one of us needs healing, then we all need it. And we don't isolate them out. They stood right next to us in the circle. And I could see our cords of energy, like coming off of us. And they flowed off of us, and then they flowed all together, and they were, all of them just beautifully blended together. All of our energetic cords came together around the circle. And I think they went around together in the center of the circle, or just like all around our heads. And they were colorful, vibrant, energetic cords. So, so beautiful. But the ones that needed healing, their cords, some of them, not necessarily all of them, but some of them had darkened energy. So they weren't lit up. And that represented that it was disharmonic. It was out of alignment, out of tune. It needed to be, needed to have light put back into it. And so we would sing, and I'm not entirely clear, and this is the exciting piece, is I still get to discover all of these things, but how exactly we were emitting the sound, whether we were, and I have a sense that we were not having to audibly let the sound come out, because just the same way as we were hearing the trees and everything else emitting vibration and frequency, it wasn't like the trees are audibly doing it. It's on a different frequency level than when I'm speaking audibly out of my mouth. So, but we could definitely hear, and it was beautiful. The sounds that were coming out were so beautiful. So we were emitting these frequencies, and each of us have a different frequency signature. So all of them together created this incredible chorus that would instantaneously put light into the darkened cords of the person who had darkened cords. So we did it just so fast But of course, to us, it's just an absolute joy to be doing that work. It was a delight. And I know that we would come together and do that wonderful sound work together whenever we felt like it. But I'm just right now specifically speaking to the healing that we were doing. So what happened after was really significant. So we healed this being that we recognized had darkened chords, which was very, I think, unusual. It was sort of strange to us, but we just, handled it, and it was beautiful. And then we realized, I'll get back to that. What had actually happened was this being was not from our planet, and they were of a darker nature. And there was actually an agenda there to investigate. They were sort of like, oh my goodness, what is the word? A scout sort of person to investigate our planet and see what we do there and what our power is. And they discovered that very quickly. They discovered how powerful this ability to do this vibrational tuning was. So they incarnated more of these beings, more of these darker frequency beings. They incarnated many more of them, and again, we did the healing work very quickly. But then we discovered that these cords, the deadened cords, are actually contagious. That's the word that I heard for it, contagious. But basically the idea is that it creates more deadened cords in others. But again, we healed that very quickly. So then the dark ones had many, the number I'm not clear on, but it was an enormous number of beings that incarnated with this darker frequency to really spread it and overtake the planet and gain more control. So at that point, we realized we needed to leave our planet and try to heal this darkness closer to the source, not directly at the source, but closer. And of course, not much of a surprise here for anyone who follows the reptilian agenda, but these were reptilian beings. So we, not that they're all evil, I'm aware of that, but there's definitely some with a very dark agenda. So we started incarnating in other places, and we held a lot of memory, of our sound gifts, and we used those. But then we were getting killed over and over again for the sound gifts, so we realized we had to shut them off. So that was the first thing to be shut off. But we held many other gifts as well, and they started to, we would still be tracked, and this is where my dream comes in. The memory of my incredible ability to remote view was so strong, so clear, and that was a little beacon for the dark ones. There's a lot of different beings have been assigned dark beings to track them, essentially. And the one who was coming after me and coming after people I loved was a being that was specifically assigned to track me throughout the cosmos, basically. And my remote viewing ability made him aware of where I was. So different abilities got shut down over time. That was a lot. I think I'm gonna stop there. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to remember more about myself and about this beautiful planet that I'm from, that I love so much and look so forward to learning more about. And it's also why I love doing past life regression work. And I really, really love helping people remember who they are and what gifts they have. Because there's honestly, that's probably one of the most exciting things to me, is remembering who I am and remembering my gifts. So, yeah. Bye, guys.